and welcome to a video about duplicate stitch from Imagine Landscapes Designs. I'm Sarah Shira and I hope this video helps you. This technique will work for a lot of things. You can use it to cover up mistakes if your stitch is looking a little weird or if you've miscrossed a cable. You can also use it to produce the look of stranded colorwork knitting or intarsia and lets you add a few little details after you've already done knitting. So in duplicate stitch, we literally make duplicate stitches on top of the knitted fabric, which means we need to understand the knitted fabric. What does that mean? Well, stockinette fabric is a series of V's as we see it, but obviously it can't just be V's. We know that there are loops. So let's have a look. The way stockinette fabric looks, we see this V when we look at the fabric, beside this V when we look at the fabric. But what really happens is that V goes up and it loops. It loops behind the stitch above it and comes back to be the second leg of the V. So this V, it's important to know, goes behind two legs of the stitch above it, comes down and goes behind two legs of these two stitches. They kind of share there, and then we come up and we're going to make a V, and then we go behind two legs, go down, behind two legs, go up. And so that's what we're going to be doing when we're duplicate stitching. This is one of the motifs in the Never Gnaked Gnomes pattern. I wanted to do color work in the little gnome sweaters, but the little gnome sweaters are so tiny and have so little fabric available, it's just easier to go back afterwards and duplicate stitch, I find. So let's look at this fabric a little bit. So we've got our pattern. We've got our fabric. What we need is yarn on a yarn needle, ideally with a blunt tip. If it's not blunt, when we go behind, it's going to split the plies, and that just makes things awkward. So what I've done here, you can see, is I've already done one stitch with 3 centered above it, just like we have here. And one of the things to know about duplicate stitches is that it's important to be able to read the charts and sort of think about things logically. So I needed to go 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches over and do a stitch. So that's that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the fact that I've already started a motif up here, and I'm just going to show you how duplicate stitch works in general. So we need to come up sort of at the bottom of a V. So I'm just going to pick one randomly up in the top left here. I'm going to come up. I'm going to pull my yarn through, and then I need to leave an end at the back side for me to weave in later and secure. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow that V, that one leg of the V up, then go over, behind 2 legs, pull through. Now I'm going to follow that other part of the V down here and go down. So there we go. I've duplicated the V of that stitch. Let's do another one. So I'm going to come up the base of the V here. Now, one thing to know is it's really easy to kind of get off which row you're on. So rather than going sideways, you start to kind of go on a diagonal. So it's really important to kind of really think, if this is the V I just made, what is the opening directly to the side? So I'm going to go up. I'm going to go follow that leg of the V, then go behind, just like it does, and it goes behind 2 legs of a V. Now, an easier way to go sideways, rather than going down and then coming up behind the fabric, is to already look at where you want to come up. So if you go down here and come up there, you're already in position for the next V. And then I go up, I go down, behind, I go over, I go down, I go across, and that's the next one. We're running out of stockinette fabric here. And we go up and over, behind 2, and that's how stockinette duplicate stitch works. Now you may notice that my blue yarn is a little thin compared to my white yarn. I'm going for high contrast here. If you are making your motif and it isn't as full or plump as you'd like, especially if it's sort of supposed to be more like a ladybug rather than just a sort of a geometric series, you can always double your yarn, or you could try a thicker yarn. So if you've knit a fingering weight gnome sweater, for instance, you could try sport weight or DK weight just to see if that gives you a plumper, fuller motif. So that's sort of the trick for moving it sideways when you're duplicate stitching, but you can also go up and down in a very similar way. So let's Let's pick this stitch here. All right, so I'm going to go above, going to do that basic duplicate stitch behind the two legs. And when I go down, I can either go up and be already in place for traveling up, or if I wanted to travel down, I could go down and down. So let's do that. Let's go down, follow the V behind the two legs. And when I go here, I'm going to go like that, come down into the spot for the next stitch. And over, or not, depending on how your motif works. That's all there is to duplicate stitch. You just need to sort of see the logic of how the stockinette fabric is formed, and then it's really just a matter of paying attention to what the yarn you're trying to replace is doing. I hope this helps you. Duplicate stitch is an easy and fun way to add a lot of impact for very little frustration. If you find color work or other problems or other ways of adding detail to knitting a little frustrating during the knitting process, don't add it during the knitting process. Add it afterwards. Use duplicate stitch. So whether you're using this for the Never Gnaked Gnomes sweater pattern or something else, I hope this tutorial helped you. I'm Sarah Shira, wishing you happy knitting and hopefully happy gnoming.